No one is going to tell me what to do at what time. I'm in charge. That's why these fools are running around here. I'm in charge.
On a point of order, Chair.
Order, Chairperson.
Point of order, Chairperson.
Order, Chairperson.
Point of order.
The ruling party by
Chairperson.
Order.
Chairperson.
Orders undermine.
Point of order.
Chair.
Welcome back to Inkari. It's time. Today we're stepping into the intense world of South African politics, diving deep into the current challenges facing the economic freedom fighters. After a series of high-profile defections, the party finds itself at a critical crossroads, and the road ahead looks bumpy. Will they manage to reinvent themselves and regain their lost ground? Let's explore the story behind the headlines and what the future might hold for Julius Malema and the EFF. Just a few months ago, Julius Malema's EFF seemed like a rising force in South African politics. There was even talk of Malema possibly becoming the deputy president of South Africa through a coalition with the ANC. But fast forward to today, and the situation looks dramatically different. The EFF has seen a sharp decline in support, losing vote in the recent elections, and has been rocked by high-profile resignations. Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has left the party for Mkhonto Wesizwe, MK party. Mzwanele Manyi and former public protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane have also left to join MK, while former EFF parliamentarian Fana Mokoena resigned without giving any reason. These exits have left Julius Malema with fewer allies and less influence. It's a far cry from the momentum the EFF had in 2019. So, what led to this decline, and why is the EFF suddenly facing an identity crisis? Let's take a closer look. One of the key lessons here is the danger of accepting high-profile defectors from other parties without building a strong foundation of loyalty. When you bring in people like Manyi or Mkhwebane, who have loyalties elsewhere, you are taking a huge risk. It sends a message to your existing members that their hard work can be sidelined by a newcomer. And in the end, many of these defectors jump ship just as quickly as they arrived. Manyi, for instance, represented the EFF in parliament while still serving as the spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation. His departure to join MK was almost predictable. The same can be said for Mkhwebane, whose loyalties always seemed to lie closer to Zuma's faction. Accepting high-profile figures without a true alignment in values and goals has proven to be a costly mistake for Malema's EFF.
Former KwaZulu-Natal Premier Julius Malema and former public protector and EFF MP Busisiwe Mkhwebane have now joined the MK party. Malema has been appointed provincial convener in KwaZulu-Natal, while Mkhwebane holds the same position in Mpumalanga. Newsroom Africa's Zinigo Mhlaba joins us now live from Sandton, where that briefing has just concluded. Zinigo, very good afternoon to you. We saw the briefing, maybe not so much of a surprise when it comes to Busisiwe, but it certainly seems as though Willis will be taking over a province that he has a lot of knowledge over.
Well, Katlego, that's very correct. Mr. Julius Malema has been operating as an activist of the ANC from the late 70s in that space of KwaZulu-Natal. And of course, we saw him, rising through the ranks of that province to become at some point chairperson and premier of KwaZulu-Natal. However, we've seen him in recent days, actually in recent week, even on social media, where he was just reflecting on how the province has lost ground. In one of those videos, he reflected that at some point when the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal was united, despite various factions after Polokwane, the province did manage to have, leaders across the alliance partners of the ANC. He said at some point the ANC had had, the KwaZulu-Natal had the president of the ANC itself, who was then President Jacob Zuma. The province also produced a president of an alliance partner, in this case is Dumo Dlamini, who was leading COSATU at that point, and of course Dr. Blade Nzimande, who was the leader of SACP. So he was just reflecting on how things have changed since then. However, we also heard not so long ago that he has decided to leave the party grew up in politically, and of course, as you said in your intro, that today we now know that he's been tasked with leading Mkhonto Wesizwe, a party that did very well in the last elections and made, unseating the ANC as the overall winner. However, we know that through the GNU, Mkhonto Wesizwe could not then be in government in that province. So, a mandate that the leader of MK party, Mr. Zuma, has tasked Mr. Julius Malema with in terms of ensuring that the party continues in that strategy of growing. However, when you talk about Mpumalanga, well, a very surprised, media room that was in there when the leadership of MK party announced that, the former public protector, of course, former member of parliament of the Economic Freedom Fighters, has been now appointed as the convener of Mkhonto Wesizwe in Mpumalanga. Actually, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane joins us now. Advocate, thank you very much for your time. Would you say, people could have seen it coming when you resigned from the Economic Freedom Fighters without telling us where you were going? But also, others might say, through your engagements, through your period as the former public protector, one could have seen that there's some bit of allegiance between you and the president, former president Jacob Zuma. Hence, we are not surprised that today you've been revealed as an MK party. How would you respond to all those statements?
What I would say is that I've been the former public protector. I worked as the public protector for the past 7 years. And when you are a public protector, you are not supposed to be a member of any political party. And I think it's a slip of a tongue for the president to say, I've been a member of the ANC, I left the ANC. Maybe it's because of having Mr. Mkhonto who grew up within the ANC. But then, again, the very fact that I've been accused of being a kind of apparently a Zuma faction, others saying I've been a spy and all those. Well, it's for people to just talk, but there's nothing like that. What I would say is that we worked well with the former president, like any other public protector who was appointed by the former president. And worse still is that my husband, who has been a member of the ANC for long as well, joined the MK party. So I am following my husband to be a member of MK. And as I said, I wanted to just move away and reflect and go home. So I'm home, so I'm following the leader of my household.
Yeah. So, a lot of South Africans knew you, or you came into prominence when you took over the office of the public protector. But now we saw you joining the EFF. We are now seeing you joining the MK party, tasked with the very important responsibilities of leading a whole province. But take us back in terms of your political insights, your passion for politics. Have you always been an activist at heart, and at what point did you decide that actually now I want to go all out? Because we know you as an advocate, as human rights activist, but also the former public protector, but we are seeing you now being openly active in politics. How long have you been a politician inside, and how far back can you take us in terms of your political agencies?
I've been an activist in my space wherever I have been. My school-going age, where I participated in a lot of activities within the school, how, one participates in how the school is governed. At the university, though I was never a member of any political party then, but then the contributions which I was making within the leadership of the very same structures which were there at the university contributed to that. My activism is more of working to liberate the poor and the marginalized. That's always been my space, and also working a lot with the vulnerable groups.
But it's not just about defections. The EFF has also faced internal strife, often driven by Julius Malema's leadership style. Last year, in what many saw as a rash decision, Malema expelled hundreds of EFF members for failing to bring enough supporters to the party's 10th anniversary celebration at FNB Stadium. That decision cost the parties around 10% of its public office bearers, over 200 people. It sent a strong message that ambition within the party will not be tolerated, leading to disillusionment and demotivation among its members. And then there's the fallout with Floyd Shivambu. Shivambu, once Malema's right-hand man, didn't hold back his criticism. He accused Malema of being boastful about his achievements, often using those accomplishments as a way to undermine others. He also called out Malema for being rude, frequently insulting opponents and leaders of other political parties. This abrasive style might have built Malema's image as a fearless fighter in the past, but it has now become a double-edged sword. Many former allies see it as divisive, and it may have contributed to the loss of internal trust and cohesion within the EFF. Shivambu's departure, coupled with this pointed criticism, signaled deeper fractures within the EFF's leadership. When the party's number 2 openly calls out the leader, it's a sign that the internal dynamics have shifted significantly.
Sometimes this so-called brotherhood, it's not brotherhood, it borders on gangsterism, a gangster relationship that we're together. If a person is wrong, we can't call each other to order. Like you defend each other even when a person is doing wrong things, is now venturing into wrong politics of being boastful and doing wrong things in public and everything else, and disrespecting people, and then you don't say anything because of brotherhood. You must be able to call out certain things that this is unacceptable and everything else. And if you realize that, so those things of the personal relationship can't override a political principle in the relations with everyone. So if a comrade misbehaves or does things which you realize that this is wrong, you must be able to call each other to order. Like, it's not gangster relationship. Honesty and respect, that you must not tell lies, you must not claim easy victories, you must not insult people. Talk politics, don't characterize the physical appearances of people. It doesn't have any, there's nothing to do with politics. It's foolishness to take a platform and want to characterize the physical appearances or body parts of other people, and then you think that that is being revolutionary. It doesn't appear anywhere in revolutionary history. It doesn't appear. There is no one. There is no Thomas Sankara. There is no Patrice Lumumba. There is no Kwame Nkrumah. There is no Fidel Castro. There is no Che Guevara. There is no one revolutionary who has ever claimed revolutionary credentials by characterizing how people physically appear. It's not politics, and that has to be suppressed and isolated successfully, so that we are able to unite the progressive forces and build an agenda moving forward. That is what, as a generation, should strive towards achieving, and not entertain side shows of imposters who are in pursuit of something else.
And really, I can't be asked about Limpopo. I don't care about Limpopo. I don't care about Gauteng. I care about South Africa and the continent. Whether EFF is voted for in Limpopo, so what? What must I do? What does that have to do with me? I'm not a regional leader. I'm international. I can walk into any country. You'll think Michael Jackson, the showstopper, has arrived. In the whole continent. So you're telling me about Limpopo, what? What's that? You want to reduce me into Ramudike? Ramudike, Mpepu, Ntangwis. I was born in Limpopo. I'm not a Limpopo citizen, I'm a South African citizen. My interests are in this country. I led this country when I was 17 years old as a president of COSAS. Why would you still see me as a person who comes from Limpopo if you are not seeing me through the eyes of tribalism? And that makes you a tribalist yourself, a regionalist, not me. I don't see my... I go anywhere in South Africa and feel comfortable. And there is nowhere in South Africa where I don't know a person personally. There's a day I woke up one day and I cried a lot during COVID. Because they told me of 10 people who had died that day from all over South Africa. They didn't know. This one tells me about this one. But I knew these people so closely. So the whole of South Africa. So much that some of them I buried their parents. Some of them I was there during the baptism of their children. That's how much I know this man. I grew up with them as a child. I grew up in this country, leading it nationally. So I know the ecosystem of this country, who does what, where, and how, including those who sell drugs. Whatever we do in Limpopo, we do in Western Cape, we do in Northwest, we do in KZN. There's nothing that happened in Limpopo now which is special. I was never made by boys. I made them. I made them. So there's no boy who can destroy me. I made them. Their mothers are living in proper houses today because of me. I made them. Why would you think you can outshine the master? Never. No boys can deal with me. Both in the ANC, in the Youth League, in the state. I defeated them when I was a child. I'm too old now, 43 with 3 kids and a wife. I defeated them when I was a child. They tried me. Everything. I've got an experience of a 63-year-old at 43. There's nothing that shocks me. Nothing. When a person is going to sell out and leave the EFF, I see them coming. I even prepare the leadership. Yeah, we're about to experience something.
So, where does the EFF go from here? The party's biggest challenge now is to reinvent itself if it hopes to regain its momentum. History shows that political parties can bounce back from difficult times, but it requires serious introspection and change. Take the DA as an example. After losing support in the 2019 elections, they managed to recover through a shift in leadership, a new message, and a strategic focus on voter mobilization. It wasn't easy, but it shows what's possible with a clear direction. The EFF will need a similar effort. They need to find a new message that resonates with voters, moving beyond public spectacles and focusing on what truly matters to the people on the ground. The challenge is to prove to South Africans that the EFF still has a purpose in a crowded political field. But the clock is ticking. If the EFF doesn't change, they risk being caught in a downward spiral alongside MK. With both parties centering around strong personalities and lacking democratic structures, they could find themselves in a race to the bottom.
There's good comrades in the EFF who could play a far much more meaningful role and everything. Some of them are very scared. I don't know why they're scared to be expressive and to speak as to what should be the direction of the organization. I heard some of the comrades were saying they were shocked that I went to Mkhonto Wesizwe. Majority of the leaders of the economic freedom fighters knew that I'm going to join the Mkhonto Wesizwe party. Even in the officials, like some obviously they came to beg me and say, no, please don't tell the president. The president did not know, and I did not see the need to talk to him about it. I canvassed the perspective with everyone else, and then when I later on communicated the decision, then they said, please don't tell him that we knew throughout. that you're going to take this progressive decision so that he doesn't look at us with doubt. And then I said, okay, that's fine. I won't tell him that. If you feel telling him like that in the future, you'll be able to tell him. And some of them even went to pretend to be crying in the meeting of the Central Command team that, no, we did not know. We were shocked and all of those other things there. So it was a properly canvassed view. It was not a view that I just woke up and everyone else is shocked. It was a properly canvassed perspective that as part of consolidating the revolutionary agenda, we need to take this decision to join Mkhonto Wesizwe party. And there are those, of course, who had said, let's go, all of us, if you're going. Then I said, I don't think that is a wise decision. You can participate like in EFF and everything else there. But if you decide to join Mkhonto Wesizwe, it must not appear as if I am responsible for a mass exodus from the EFF. I'm joining individually. Those who join later on because they're convinced about the politics of Mkhonto Wesizwe, they will do so by themselves individually. That approach of joining as a group and everything else is not sustainable. It's not disciplined. It's not a proper organizational and political culture. So that is what I had said, that those of you who want to join, you can join whatever time you want to join, and will not stop you from doing so. If according to your own political views, you think that you should now join Mkhonto Wesizwe party. That is why those who join, we welcome them to join from the EFF, from the ANC, from all these other political parties.
Do you expect more to join?
I don't expect more. So in Mkhonto Wesizwe part in the organization, there is a saying that as babis bayazizela, like that. We don't call them; they come by themselves. And logically, I'm not surprised that in this conjuncture, it will make sense for those who want to pursue real revolutionary politics to associate with Mkhonto Wesizwe, because it's an organic formation which is fighting for total decolonization. It's fighting against all the manifestations of colonization and colonialism in South Africa. So I wouldn't be surprised, because
observers say the exit of former economic freedom fighters second in command has exposed cracks in the organization, and the question is, will we see an end to the exodus and can the EFF recover from it? Let's bring in now Thabo Shole Mashao, independent political commentator, for more on this conversation. Thabo, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us here in studio this evening. I mean, one would say when it rains, it pours. And certainly this is what we're seeing this week, particularly with two more senior members in the EFF rather leaving that political party. And one would say, some people were saying that, is this the beginning of the end for the EFF? Your comment?
Or the end of the beginning, perhaps, because we are about to see much more. As MK grows, more and more people will be attracted to MK party, as opposed to the demise of the EFF, and largely because the ideological leanings of the EFF is very close to that of the MK party. So naturally, the graduation or the movement would then move towards MK party. But it doesn't help that it was the second in charge of the EFF who moved first. Therefore, his support, or if you will, the faction that was more favorable towards Floyd Shivambu, will then be magnetized or gravitate towards where he is currently. He will be making some calls, as he has been, to invite more individuals to come through. As a national organizer, he'd prefer to work with individuals that he's more exposed to, who are more also leaning towards his style of leadership. So he will magnetize a number of EFF supporters to come through into the EFF. It doesn't help, by the way, that the EFF is battling because of some of the key issues, including migration, which is one big element that many South Africans are currently grappling with. But secondly, as well, the leadership of Julius Malema that has been seen as dictatorial, autocratic, and overly imposing. And we have seen lack of self-reflection from him in the past few days, where he would have been expected to somehow be humble and also say, what can we do to make this a little bit better, and maybe recognize the error of his ways. None of that has come through. We've seen him saying that using the NPA upcoming Assembly, National People's Assembly, saying that he knows who the culprits are, they're going to be dealt with in December. So even if perhaps you wanted to stay in the EFF, those threatening remarks would shake you and you'd think, am I next? Because I could just be victimized for knowing Floyd, for perhaps calling him, or anyone else on the other side of the divide.
And certainly, Thabo, and speaking about those two former MPs of the EFF leaving this week, they have not really said, you know, in terms of which political home they will be going to. I mean, the likes of Busisiwe Mkhwebane says that she's going to focus on her family, and Fana Mokoena are not really sharing much there when it comes to his next move. Do you think, like you're saying, that this is just Floyd Shivambu beginning to draw some of those very senior members from the EFF to the MK party?
And I'm sure many more will go, Mbali, because you know that far better than me that the husband of Advocate Mkhwebane is deep in the trenches of the MK party. Fana Mokoena, I don't know if you saw his social media postings where he says no one is betraying you. People are leaving because they are choosing themselves. And he's also reflecting on the personality or the persona of Julius Malema directly in that. So these people are people who are keen and very much interested in the body politic of South Africa. They wouldn't want to be lost to it. Mkhwebane definitely doesn't want to. I think she was just being diplomatic in order to make it not so obvious. Fana Mokoena, clearly, it would be surprising if it doesn't go to MK party, but with them, they will draw many. But the test truly is on the EFF at this time. Can the center hold, especially ahead of an elective conference, which is going to shed more leadership positions? More individuals are going to feel victimized, more people are going to feel not wanted, and the losers of the conference will automatically want to find home elsewhere. Where's that particular home that we're speaking about? It's definitely the MK party, because in the ANC, the queue is way too long to the leadership echelons. GNU made it even more complicated. So naturally, it would be the MK party.
And looking at some of the reasons some of these political leaders from the EFF are leaving, they are mentioning things like toxicity, unhappiness, oppression in the party. And this particularly also draws to two more senior leaders in the EFF in KwaZulu-Natal. And those two senior leaders were also responsible for the election campaign of the EFF. Clearly here, it just says that Malema needs to go back to the drawing board.
He does need to, but also we must watch very carefully what Dalimpofu will do or say in the next few weeks. And of course, there have been speculations about Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, but we see that he's still standing strong and firm within the EFF. But a day in politics is almost like 10 years because a lot can happen within just 24 hours. But you're quite right. KZN, very stronghold. We remember Floyd Shivambu did a lot of work before he was moved to the Eastern Cape when he was still with the EFF at the time. So it also says to us, these movements are not new and sudden. They have been carefully planned by a great planner who is Jacob Zuma, former President Jacob Zuma. But the interesting thing about it all is that, Mbali, you'd remember the relationship between former President Jacob Zuma and Floyd Shivambu has never been smooth. And in 2011, at the 24th Congress of the ANC Youth League at Galaga Estate, the famous clip comes from there, where former President Jacob Zuma turns around as he was about to address on June 16, if my maths serves me right, as he was about to address the crowd, and he said, "Ukhuluma nami baba." He was referring to Floyd after Floyd had commented under his breath that he was involved in the Libya killings as the USA was invading Libya and Gaddafi died at that time. Not invading, but when Muammar Gaddafi was killed at the time. Floyd blamed President Jacob Zuma at that time, and he turned around at that very insidiously controversial conference of the Youth League. By the way, it was that conference that got rid of Malema. Lamola, got suspended. Floyd got suspended. But the loyalty of Floyd to stick with Malema during those tough times up until now, clearly it was something, it was a straw that broke the camel's back. And we are yet to find out what that is, hopefully from his biography.
We have run out of time. Can the EFF survive this exodus?
Certainly it can survive. It depends on how they move from here, how they mobilize themselves, what changes do they make. The leadership of Julius Malema, he wouldn't want to change it, but there are people who are attracted to that nonetheless. But how they redefine themselves, particularly after the National People's Assembly.
All right.
Jacob Zuma's leadership of MK, like Malema's of the EFF, is highly centralized, with no party conferences or opportunities for members to rise through the ranks. Both parties are at risk of imploding under their leaders' iron grip. So what's next for the EFF? While it's too soon to write them off, the road to recovery will be long and difficult. They will need to build trust within their ranks, create a new narrative, and reconnect with voters on the ground. But one thing's for sure, South Africa's political landscape is as unpredictable as ever. Whether the EFF can rise from this slump or fade away remains to be seen. But in a democracy like ours, surprises are always around the corner. Thanks for tuning into Inkari. It's time. If you found this breakdown of the EFF's challenges insightful, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Can the EFF make a comeback? Or is this the beginning of the end for Malema's party? Until next time, stay informed and stay curious. Thanks for watching and take care.
We are not going to any corner. We are not going to move like we are defeated. We are not defeated. We are in a struggle for a generational mission. We are not for now. We are for the future. We will not die now. We survived death now. We survived the money now. We survived all weapons that were directed at the EFF. We emerged victorious. The organization of my grandmother still stands. The organization of all of you still stand because you, the ground forces, said not with our organization. I say to you now, I will never be demoralized by these people. We may not get the votes we want now, but this is an investment for the future. This is an organization that it will take us to a promised land.